Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to work on this seedling tray of bald cypress. And these were planted at exactly the same time as the grove planting in the 30-inch mica pot. They were all planted at the same time. If I pan over here, I've got another group where the trees are much closer together, and as a consequence, many of them are much thinner. But we're not going to work on this one yet. We're going to work on this one today. And I've noticed that there's some space. If we walk over here, there's a whole bunch of space all the way across. And then there's a group here that are fairly dense. And then if we look on the other side, ow! The citrus tree bit me. I've got some portulacaria in the way. If we look over here on the other side, that corner is empty. So my plan is to take all of these trees here, including this big one, and remove them, and then pot them individually. You'll see they've developed quite nicely. I may take this double trunk and keep it as a double trunk, but the majority of them, there are some little runts, but I can put them in smaller pots. I think the majority of them would do just fine as a single in either a 6-inch bulb pan or an 8-inch bulb pan. And I've already got them over at my workbench. So that's the next step in this video, is to take all of these trees, from this large one, all the rest of these guys, out of the tray and pot them up either individually or as double trunks, because here's another one that could possibly be a double trunk. And then there's also some more on the other side, which we really can't see, that I'm also going to remove. And then I'm going to have an oval, pretty much an oval, like this. I know it's hard to see. Then I'm going to try to take that entire group and make another forest planting. But this next step now is remove all the trees that will not be in the forest and pot them up individually. I'm now at my workbench, and I was able to remove all the trees in that one corner that I wanted to as one single group. Now if you look at this soil, it's incredibly sandy. It's very dense, and it's almost just basically garden soil. And I think what happened was, when I was planting the seed, and there's only a window of opportunity to get the seed in the ground, that I ran out of my really nice sifted soil. So I just basically used my garden compost. And the soil that I'm going to put them in, you can see it's a little darker, it has a little bit more organics, but it is also very dense. And I would never even dream of putting any other type of tree into this kind of soil, other than a bald cypress. Because bald cypress have adapted to living submerged in water with virtually no oxygen, and they grow just perfectly fine. There is a theory that the reason that they put up the knees is so they can breathe the oxygen. So I have two different size pots. I have a 6-inch bulb pan and an 8-inch bulb pan, and I'm going to put them into their respective pots based on their size. So the first little critter here that has come off all by itself, and I'm going to try to keep as much of the ambient soil on there as I can. The only really thing I need to do is take off the taproot and maybe trim a couple of these little roots, and that's it. So then it goes into the pot. And I put a mound on the pot, and then I try to feather out the roots. Make sure that all the surface roots are radiating 360 degrees as best I can, and cover those roots up. And this is really one of the most important aspects for me growing trees from seed or from cuttings, is when they're very, very young, I have total control over the roots. So then as the tree matures, because I've manipulated the roots to be really nice radial roots, they will then be like that for the rest of the life of the tree, instead of having to hassle with trying to figure out how to get a nice radial root system from a tree that has already grown without a bonsai perspective, a tree that you buy from a landscaping company or you get from a garden center. Now here's one that came with no soil at all, and you can see where it hit the bottom of the container it was in, so I'm going to cut that away, but I don't want to cut too much. And this tree has pretty poor surface roots, but we're going to do what we can to get those to move radially. And then fill it with soil. And because these guys are getting a pretty heavy duty root prune, I'm also going to cut them back. So if you look at this one here, I'm going to cut it back to somewhere about right there. And we're supposed to be getting a lot of rain tomorrow, and then another cool down. But we're getting to the end of January, and I haven't even started on my elm trees. And I've done about half of my junipers. I only had 3 hornbeams, so they're finished. And I have, sorry, I have 3 more trays of bald cypress I need to get to, or leave them for next year. So we've got another really nice large tree here. And try to keep most of the soil. I'm going to cut it back before I even pot it up, because it's entangled. So there's a pretty nice root ball. You may see that some of them, like they're on the edge of the pot, so there's no way roots are going to come this way, because there's no chance that can happen. So get this guy like this. Try the best I can to get the roots. These little tiny roots right here are super important for trying to get the radial root. So as I put the soil in there, I will then bring those up to try to... Now this root that's a little higher, it probably won't make it. And I'm not going to cut it off, but it's probably not going to be part of the design. So I'm going to lift this root up and then sort of do that with it so it's in place. I have some bonsai pet peeves, and one of those is to see a tree that's been styled beautifully, and then you look at the roots and it's just a giant mass of circling roots. It looks like it's sat in a 1-gallon pot for 10 years, and no one attempted to rectify that, and I'm not quite sure why. I think I'm just going to take that root off. There we go. Okay. And I'm just putting them over here. And it looks like I'm going to be running out of mixed soil. But I can always mix some more. Most of this here, that it's a little bit browner, is from my compost, where I normally use it in the ground. I don't typically... Well, there's one with almost no roots. And once again, take off the weird 90-degree angle. And cut it back considerably. I'm thinking to myself, could that just go into a 6-inch? I mean, the root spread is virtually nothing. So I think it can. I think it can go into... In other videos, I talked about trees being, graded like in school. A trees, B trees, C trees. So with seedlings like this, you're going to get the same thing. One of the first ones that I did had a really pretty decent radial root system that I was able to feather out. But this one had almost nothing. So, you just deal with trees that may not have that perfect ability to... Now these two I think I was going to use as a double trunk. And I think I am. I was thinking of separating them, but now I've changed my mind. Try to... I know there's a root in there somewhere. There it is. Okay, we got some funky roots that look like they've come from other trees that I just need to remove. So I'm going to cut these back, but I'm going to cut this one longer. And I'm going to try to find a bud where it's going out, like that. And I think it's right there. And then on what will be the child, I'm going to try to find a bud like this dude to right there. So that now when this one sprouts, it'll go that way. And when this one sprouts, it'll go that way. Because typically your parent and child style, the trees are moving away from each other. Ooh, I still got a root, it looks like from another tree, that's hanging on. And let's take some of the bottom off. And it's interesting because the larger tree has some very decent surface roots and the younger tree has virtually none. And once again, you can see the soil is so sandy, so dense. But the bald cypress won't even blink an eye. So there's a future parent and child. And the sun is coming out. I actually had to wait quite a bit from the first part of this video to what I'm doing now because it rained. There's another one that I think would make a nice double trunk. The larger trunk is large enough compared to the small one that it would make a nice parent and child. So and I have a whole bunch of space in between this group and the next two, so I'm going to keep as much roots as I can. See, there's the bottom of the seed bed, all the roots down there. I'll take most of that off because I really want to promote the roots that are on the surface here. Okay. You know, I'm able to incorporate the soil that they were in the tray into my other mix. So it looks like I will not run out, at least for this video. So I got my bulb pan. And once again, I don't have to worry about a front because a round pot has no front. There's another big root right here I want to take off. And cut them back. Try to cut this guy. There's an outside bud right there. Actually, there's another one right here, so I'm going to take it a little shorter. And then for the child part, try to find an outside bud. There's one right there. Little bud right there. And young bald cypress have, oops, sorry, hit the camera with my elbow. Young bald cypress have quite a bit of apical dominance. So the shoot that does come out of here, if I do nothing for the whole year, it'll be 3 feet high. Which is what we've got with these seedlings. I mean, the ones that are left, I mean, look how tall they are. That's 1 year of growth from a seed. Doing nothing. I never pruned them. Never cut them back. Water and a little bit of fertilizer. And they got 3 feet. And some of them are at least as thick as a pencil, and even more than that in just 1 year. If you read up on them in the landscape, in only 3 or 4 years you can get a trunk 3 or 4 inches across. So they grow fast. And that's really if you want to grow your own trees that have much, much bigger trunks. Put them in the ground. Or a huge pot where they have room for the roots to just take off. Now this is another potential double trunk, but you notice they're both exactly the same size. So the parent and child style really won't work for these guys. And so actually I'm going to turn it around and take this guy next. And he has the same 90-degree curve when the root hits the bottom of the container, the seed tray that they were in. And that seed tray, quote unquote, was just a mud tray that typically you buy to mix mortar when you're going to do tile or something like that. And a lot of bonsai people use those, and they just simply drill or cut drain holes, and they make a great seed tray or a training tray for very large trees. Okay, now we've got some really nice surface roots like right here, and then we have all this little extra stuff that probably I'm not even going to try to bury. I want these surface roots here to be the eventual roots for the tree. So all this little stuff up here is probably just going to go, and it will just die off if you don't bury it. Now I have buried some of it there, if you see. So they may actually continue to live, and as they thicken, you can actually get a more buttressed trunk because those roots, these little roots right here, will fuse with the trunk. And that may take a while, but it won't be that long. And then once again, just give this guy a cut. There's no real need to do anything directional because it's already just a single trunk, and it's also just in a round pot. So choosing the front is going to be at least another year. Perhaps sooner, but my future plan on these guys, since they're really only coming into their second year, is to do what I'm doing to them now, but then really just let them grow again. Let them grow out. So that's how I do a lot of my trees in the formative years. First year, let it grow completely unchecked without ever cutting it back. You know, I'm going to cut this guy short. See, there's another bud right there. And there's all little buds everywhere. Bald cypress has the ability to just push sprouts like crazy. You can see that when I work on my large bald cypress that I'm doing in the formal upright juvenile style. So let's go to there. And I think I'm going to put it in a 6-inch pot because the root spread is just pretty meager. And I'm not going to run out of soil. And I'm going to take this right-hand curve off this root. And that's a pretty funky root system. But we still have some smaller feeder roots that hopefully can produce that nice radial root system. And I'm giving the soil a little bit of a, tamping it down a little bit, but not that much. And then last but not least, we have possibly the biggest one. And I'm going to cut it to about there. See what we've got with the roots here. You see, that would make some nice radial roots. Try to promote this little tiny guy. And we've got some more right here, some smaller ones. So he's going to go into an 8-inch. Going to try to keep as much of that. Look at the roots. The healthy white roots on the bottom. Even though they're dormant, the roots are still growing. Give him just a little bit on the base. And I think this, I think this is going to make a great front because look at all the little roots. No, I'm way off. Sorry. See all those little roots? And I can pull all 3 of them in separate directions. So this is going to have a great radial root system. And I'm going to cut the bottom so it's lower in the pot. Yeah, much better. Okay, get these guys up. And then hold them up. Put more soil under there. And then just guide them so that they all follow their own path straight from the trunk. You see how that's going to be really nice radial root system. Got 5 or 6 small roots, but they're all real nice and healthy. So that's how you do it. Now, this is probably going to be the front of this tree, and I already know that, but I've cut it so that the front is going to go that way. So I'm going to take it to there, because there's another bud. So now the bud will come forward, which will work better with the roots. So that's it for that batch. So I'm going to go put them on the bench and then remove the rest of the trees that I don't want, that are not going to work in the grove. And then I'm going to attempt to repot the grove. But I think that is going to be part 2. So I'm going to take these guys, put them on the bench, water them in super well right away. This is the kind of plant that I water in a repotted, especially a root prune tree, immediately. Okay, so we ended up with 6 8-inch bulb pans and 3 6-inch bulb pans. 2 parent and child style. And the rest are all singles. Oh, you know, and I forgot to cut the guy away in the back. The runt of this batch for sure. Although, you know, there's no such thing as a runt when it comes to bonsai, because you can turn it into a mame, you can turn it into a shohin. Let me go. Let me bring them over here. These are some very interesting little bald cypress. And bring them into. And you see how crooked the trunks are, and how crooked this one is. They're in a seed bed that I had mesh over, so when they grew up into the mesh, they couldn't quite get up over it. So these are going to be some really cool little shohin trees. I am actually going to try to turn this thing into like a bunjin, flat top. But it's only about 8 inches high. Here's my scissors. And this one, and what's really interesting is this one has gone totally dormant. They're, you know, brethren again. And this one actually has a branch, which who knows, I may cut it to there and make some taper. But they're going to be some funky little trees. They're not going to be that nice, straight, formal, upright kind of thing. So that little guy in the corner, I don't call those trees runts, because they can make nice small trees. So that's it for this video, phase 1. And I will take the rest of the trees that I do not want in the grove and do the same thing with them, just off camera. There's no need to continue. It's the same process over and over and over again. And then we'll do the grove. And I'm going to try to take that grove as a unit out of the seedling tray and put it into a bonsai pot, all as just one unit. So that should be tricky. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. All those things help the algorithm send me to more people. And I'm coming up on 500 subscribers, so that's going to be one hell of a milestone for me. So I want to thank everybody who has subscribed. And I'm really looking forward to these guys. I've only got about 200 more. Oh, God. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But actually, I have some plans. And you will see that if you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can watch me manipulate all the other trees into different things. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And I will see you in the next video.